These are the most disturbing Scooby-Doo monsters of all time. In Season 1, Episode 26, All Fear the Freak, and throughout the series, the gang finally uncovers the true identity of the masked villain who has been haunting the town and terrorizing the original Mystery Incorporated. The Freak's presence is tied to the town's dark secrets and the mysterious disappearances of the original gang that came before them. During the climactic confrontation, the gang's investigation leads them through dangerous caves as they get closer to the truth. The Freak attempts to destroy all the evidence, and the gang themselves, nearly bringing the caves down on everyone to keep his secrets permanently buried. When the mask finally comes off, the truth is devastating. The Freak is revealed to be Mayor Fred Jones, Sr., Fred's own father, who had used the Freak persona to threaten the original Mystery Incorporated and hide the town's supernatural past. The Freak represents the ultimate betrayal, family trauma, and the corruption that exists at the very heart of Crystal Cove, making him one of the most psychologically disturbing villains in the entire franchise. His actions aren't just criminal, they're deeply personal, targeting his own son and destroying Fred's entire understanding of his life and family. But the Freak is nowhere near as scary as the legend of Alice May. In Season 1, Episode 6, The Legend of Alice May, a mysterious new student named Alice May arrives at Crystal Cove High School, immediately attracting Fred's attention while making Daphne suspicious of her true intentions. Meanwhile, a ghostly girl begins kidnapping boys at school dances, creating a reign of terror among the student body. Daphne investigates Alice's increasingly odd behavior while the gang uncovers disturbing clues about the ghost girl's identity and motivations. At the prom, the ghost launches a full attack on the students, and when the gang finally traps her, Alice May is revealed as the culprit behind the terrifying incidents. She claims to be the daughter of Deacon Carlswell, the Creeper from the original series, and seeks revenge for her father's imprisonment, but it's later revealed that Alice was actually working for the mysterious Mr. E, and her entire backstory was fabricated to manipulate the gang into pursuing the deeper mystery of Crystal Cove. Alice May's ghost persona is visually terrifying in ways that push the boundaries of what should appear in a children's cartoon, and her manipulation of the gang for a shadowy conspiracy adds multiple layers of menace and psychological horror. The most disturbing aspect is how she infiltrates the group by targeting Fred romantically, using genuine emotions and relationships as weapons in her psychological warfare. But Alice May was nowhere near as scary as the monsters later on the list. First, we need to look at the Headless Horror, though. In Season 1, Episode 22, Attack of the Headless Horror, the gang encounters Dr. Rick Spartan, a famous explorer who claims to be cursed by the Headless Horror, a legendary monster said to haunt anyone who disturbs its ancient resting place. The supernatural curse appears to be targeting Dr. Spartan specifically, putting him in constant danger. The gang visits Dr. Spartan's home, where the Headless Horror begins its relentless and terrifying pursuit of anyone in its path. The monster appears to be truly supernatural, attacking with horrifying force and seeming to be completely unstoppable. The gang conducts their investigation while being constantly hunted, discovering that the curse is actually a hoax perpetrated by Kachinga, Spartan's assistant, who wants to scare Spartan away from treasure hunting so he can claim the discoveries for himself. The Headless Horror taps into primal fears of being hunted by something inhuman and unstoppable, and its nightmarish design and the psychological torment it inflicts make it stand out among Scooby-Doo villains. Even after the reveal that it's a human in disguise, the psychological impact of the Headless Horror's design and behavior stay, but unfortunately, this is nowhere near the scariest monster on the list. In Season 1, Episode 5, The Song of Mystery, children throughout Crystal Cove are being transformed into monsters by a mysterious figure known as Que Horrifico, causing widespread panic among parents and complete chaos throughout the town. The transformation of innocent children into monstrous beings represents a fundamental violation of safety and childhood innocence. The gang investigates and discovers that Que Horrifico uses a magical pan flute to hypnotize children, turning them into his monstrous minions who do his bidding without question. The adults flee in terror, effectively abandoning the town and leaving it completely in the hands of the possessed children. The gang eventually discovers that Marianne Glearden, Fred's overachieving tutor, is actually Que Horrifico, and she wanted to create a town completely free of adults where she could rule over the children like a dictator. The idea of children being turned into monsters and used as pawns is deeply unsettling on multiple levels, and Que Horrifico's disturbing clown-like appearance and mind control abilities add to the episode's genuinely disturbing atmosphere. The concept plays with parental fears about losing control over their children and the vulnerability of young minds to manipulation. The transformation of familiar children into unrecognizable monsters creates a body horror element that's particularly effective because it targets characters the audience is meant to care about. In Season 1, Episode 3, Revenge of the Man Crab, a grotesque, human-sized crab monster begins attacking a beach volleyball tournament, specifically targeting female players and dragging them into the ocean where they disappear. The predatory behavior and the threat of drowning create immediate and visceral fear. The gang investigates the increasingly violent attacks, suspecting various townsfolk, including the suspicious Skipper Shelton, who seems to know more than he's letting on. The man crab's underwater lair is eventually discovered, revealing a disturbing environment where the creature has been operating. The gang sets an elaborate trap to catch the monster, and it's ultimately revealed to be Peter Trickle, who used the man crab suit to sabotage the tournament for his own financial gain. The man crab's shocking appearance, predatory behavior targeting women specifically, and the real physical threat it poses to innocent people elevate the horror far beyond the typical Scooby-Doo fare. The creature's design combines human and crustacean features in deeply unsettling ways that create a body horror effect, while its aquatic hunting methods add claustrophobic fears about drowning and being dragged underwater. In Season 2, Episode 1, The Night the Clown Cried, Crystal Cove is terrorized by Crybaby Clown after the gang has been disbanded, leaving the town vulnerable to this evil man-baby who commits a series of bizarre and increasingly menacing crimes. The clown represents a new level of threat that the town hasn't experienced before. Crybaby Clown kidnaps people and leaves taunting messages throughout the town, all while acting with a disturbing blend of childishness and pure malice that makes his behavior unpredictable and terrifying. The new mayor is eventually forced to reunite the disbanded gang to stop the escalating threat. The clown's unpredictable attacks and psychological games push the gang to their absolute limits, testing their abilities and their unity. Most disturbingly, Crybaby Clown actually escapes at the end of the episode, marking the first time the gang completely fails to catch the villain, which has a profound and lasting impact on their confidence and unity as a team. Crybaby Clown combines the naturally unsettling qualities of clowns with a deranged, infantile persona that creates a uniquely disturbing antagonist. His ability to outsmart the gang and his eerie presence make him one of the most psychologically disturbing opponents in the entire series. But it's nowhere near as bad as the next one. In Season 1, Episode 14, The Ho Dog of Horror, the gang investigates a series of mysterious disappearances at Destroido Corp., a chemical company with a notably shady reputation and a history of questionable business practices. Reports begin surfacing of a monstrous creature made entirely of slime that's been lurking within the facility and attacking anyone who gets too close. Employees continue to vanish without explanation, and the gang discovers trails of corrosive slime throughout the building that seem to dissolve anything they touch. The slime mutant attacks with little warning, dissolving obstacles in its path and nearly trapping the gang in deadly situations. The investigation reveals that the monster is actually being used as a cover for illegal dumping and extensive corporate malfeasance. The culprit, using the slime mutant suit, hoped to scare off anyone who got too close to discovering the company's environmental crimes and illegal activities. The slime mutant's amorphous, constantly melting form and the ever-present threat of being dissolved alive make it a uniquely terrifying foe that plays with fears of chemical burns and environmental contamination. The episode's commentary on corporate greed and environmental destruction adds a layer of real-world horror that makes the monster feel more relevant and threatening. The creature's ability to dissolve through walls and barriers removes any sense of safety or protection, while its unpredictable, flowing movements make it nearly impossible to anticipate or escape. The body horror elements of dissolution and chemical contamination tap into modern fears about industrial pollution and corporate negligence, making the monster both supernatural and unnervingly realistic. In Season 1, Episode 16, Where Walks Aphrodite, Crystal Cove is overtaken by a strange love epidemic that affects the entire population, but beneath the surface romance, a monstrous cicada creature stalks the town. Its piercing, screeching call heralds chaos and impending doom wherever it appears. The gang uncovers that the cicada creature is directly connected to a mysterious love potion that's being distributed at the high school, affecting students' behavior and judgment. The monster attacks using swarms of insects, overwhelming and terrifying its victims with sheer numbers and coordinated assaults. Eventually, the gang reveals that the creature is actually a disguise being used by Professor Pericles to manipulate events in Crystal Cove, tying into the larger, more sinister narrative arc that runs throughout the series. The cicada creature's body horror elements, including swarming insects, unnatural movements, and piercing shrieks, tap into primal fears that many people have about insects and infestation. The combination of individual and collective insect behavior creates a uniquely unsettling monster that feels both supernatural and disturbingly natural. The creature's ability to command swarms adds a layer of environmental horror, while its connection to the love potion subplot creates psychological manipulation that affects the victim's ability to think clearly. In Season 1, Episode 20, The Secret Serum, the gang investigates a series of increasingly violent attacks at the Crystal Cove Museum, where a newly discovered mummy has supposedly come back to life and begun stalking the halls. The ancient curse appears to be targeting anyone who disturbs the mummy's resting place. The mummy of Friar Sarah stalks the museum's halls with relentless determination, seemingly unstoppable and completely impervious to any traps the gang attempts to set. The gang unravels a complex plot involving a stolen artifact and a fake serum that supposedly grants immortality to whoever possesses it. The mummy is ultimately revealed to be an elaborate disguise used by a thief attempting to cover his tracks and escape with the valuable artifact without being detected. The relentless pursuit by a cursed ancient mummy invokes classic horror movie tropes, and the claustrophobic museum setting amplifies the terror by creating a maze-like environment with limited escape routes. The creature represents fears about disturbing the dead and facing consequences for disrespecting ancient burial sites and cultural artifacts. In Season 1, Episode 2, The Creeping Creatures, while traveling through a remote area, the gang stops in the seemingly deserted town of Gatorsburg, only to discover that it's being terrorized by mutated, amphibious fish freaks that emerge from the surrounding swampland. The town appears to be completely abandoned except for these monstrous creatures. The fish freaks emerge from the murky swamp waters without warning, kidnapping townsfolk and launching coordinated attacks on the gang throughout their investigation. The investigation eventually uncovers a plot by remaining townspeople to drive away outsiders and reclaim their town's lost glory by any means necessary. The fish freaks are revealed to be townspeople in elaborate disguises, using the monster persona to protect their secrets and maintain their isolation from the outside world. The grotesque, scaly designs and the monster's aquatic ambushes create a tense, horror movie atmosphere that makes these villains especially memorable and effective. The creature's ability to attack from the water adds an environmental threat that's difficult to predict or defend against, while their coordinated group attacks create overwhelming odds for the protagonists. In Season 1, Episode 21, Night Fright, Shaggy and Scooby win a contest to spend the night with horror movie icon Vincent Van Gogh, thinking they're in for a fun evening with their celebrity hero. Instead, they find themselves trapped in a mansion with the monstrous Night Fright, turning their dream night into a living nightmare. Night Fright is a hulking beast with glowing eyes and monstrous strength, stalking the mansion's dark halls and hunting the gang throughout the night. The episode pays deliberate homage to classic horror films, with suspenseful chase sequences and genuine danger around every corner. The monster is ultimately revealed to be a sophisticated robotic creation, programmed to create real terror for Van Gogh's elaborate publicity stunt that's designed to generate buzz for his upcoming projects. Night Fright's intimidating presence and the episode's classic horror movie setting make it a standout for scares and suspense that feel more like a genuine horror film than a typical cartoon. The robot reveal adds a technological horror element while maintaining the creature's threatening presence, and the episode's homage to classic horror cinema elevates the entire experience. Van Gogh's willingness to subject guests to genuine terror for publicity demonstrates how entertainment industry cynicism can create real danger. In Season 1, Episode 10, The Shrieking Madness, the gang visits Darrow University to investigate a series of bizarre events that are linked to an ancient, Lovecraftian entity known as Char-Gar Gothicon. The creature's influence begins affecting reality itself in ways that challenge the gang's understanding of what's possible. Students and faculty are being driven to madness by the entity's supernatural influence, and reality itself seems to warp and distort around the monster's presence in ways that defy explanation. The gang discovers that Professor H.P. Hatecraft, clearly inspired by Lovecraftian horror literature, has inadvertently summoned the creature through his research into forbidden knowledge. The episode blends psychological horror with supernatural threats, culminating in a desperate battle to send Chargar Gothicon back to its own dimension before it can fully manifest in our reality. Chargar Gothicon's eldritch design, reality-bending powers, and the episode's descent into cosmic horror make it one of the most disturbing and ambitious monsters in the entire series. The creature represents fears about knowledge that humans aren't meant to possess and the consequences of academic hubris taken too far. Its ability to affect reality and drive people insane adds psychological horror elements that go beyond physical threats, while its otherworldly design challenges viewers' understanding of what monsters can look like. The episode's Lovecraftian influences bring cosmic horror elements that suggest vast, incomprehensible forces beyond human understanding, making this monster uniquely terrifying in its implications for the nature of reality itself. If you enjoyed this video and want to see the trippiest episodes of Scooby-Doo, click the video on the screen.